Without Seppa attending Austria, Kayla has managed to stretch ahead in the points. However, Marco was unable to maximize the opportunity, with the moonlighting T stealing the win. Will Mosport offer him a better chance to finally get back to the top step? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The official name is Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, but most fans simply know it as Mosport. Let's head to our track guide to find out a little bit more about it. Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Mosport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Mosport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles, or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti straight, the only other option is usually Moss Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac, but any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill Mosport continues to provide. Well, DJ, there's very few racetracks that you could look back close to 70 years at the layout and still see the same thing.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. Mosport is almost the exact definition of an old school circuit. And so for these old school Lotus 79s, it's a real treat to get out and drive. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be without its challenges. You've got to be very, very careful, specifically coming over the crest of Clayton. If you get a little too wide or the car is a little offline there, you can actually lift up a little bit and break that seal underneath the car to create the ground effect and find yourself skittering off into the grass, as well as the tricky braking zone going down into Moss Corner, that run down the hill and then immediately back up. Drivers have to be very careful. If you're offline through there, you can pick up a little bit of undercarriage damage, and that can really ruin your race. Now, I will say that run into Moss is one of really two potential overtaking opportunities, although that's not really the most recommended. The best way to get by is to maximize your exit out of Moss, that double-handed right-hander that is so tricky to get right, but maximize the exit out of that going down the Mario Andretti straightaway and try to pull alongside going into the S's and whites. That's going to be the best place to get by, but even then, it's not that easy. Today, I think it's really going to be a race where qualifying is important and track position is key.
Well, see if it changes the championship because of that. And right now in the Drivers' Championship, as we mentioned, Kayla about 40 points ahead, and there it gets much tighter amongst our competitors, with Andy T jumping up now with his latest win into the top 5, but he's always kind of been coy about whether or not he's going to stick around for many of the races, although he is here today. And it goes all the way down to 78 points back there for 5th. What about the team's championship?
Well, Joe, in that team's championship, you can see March Grand Prix team leading the way, but only by a single point over equipped Renault Elf. So a very, very tight battle there going on, with Fittipaldi Automotive not out of the realm of possibility of overtaking their 19 points back. Essex John Player team Lotus, they're 23 points back the lead, and in a pretty close battle there for P3 in the standings, as well as team ATS, who's only about 9 points off themselves.
And for today's race, it's a short lap around here, so 35 of them to try and tackle. It's an open setup series, and they have no spare car waiting for them, which essentially means if you damage the car, you can't just hop in a fresh one during the race. They have drive-through penalties at 17 incidents and a disqualification at 25 incidents, but there's not many places where you can really get off track here and find yourself immediately sliding towards the wall with the high speeds. The qualifying currently being led by Andy T by less than a tenth over Ove Trangarade, but we're on board with T, seeing if he can improve on his time the second lap around as he crosses the timing line. He does a 1:04.9, about 4/10 quicker, and now everybody else is left to respond.
Indeed they are, including Severi Seppa, who's all the way down there in 6th place, and that's his second lap right there. So he's not exactly as fast as I would expect him. Severi's going to have some work to do. Pablo Suarez crosses over the line, able to improve by a little bit there, and that'll bump his way up to 11th place. Still waiting for a few more drivers to set their final lap, including Seawards here, who comes through that Moss complex, a little bit off the apex there, but able to keep the car under him, which is half the battle going through that corner.
Indeed, and also worth noting that Marco Kayla failed to set a second lap time because he wrecked in Moss. So as we watch Shane in the number 11 come up to the S's, let's see if these are going to be a little more tidy than the other end of the circuit. You can see just how this track flows back and forth, and that final turn, that looked pretty good to me. Coming across, a 106.8 becomes a 106.7, a 10th improvement, actually gets him at least one spot.
Indeed, here is the only driver not yet set a time here. This is Daniel Gallus. There you can see that compression coming up through Moss, that little bit of correction he's got to do to get it right. There's about 18 different ways you can go through that corner. I have seen so many different drivers trying different lines through there, but really all what matters is if you're able to get it slowed down at the end and blast off through that second apex. That's really key, and you do not want to hop, especially in these Lotus 79s. You do not want to hop the curb there because it'll mess up the ground effect.
Right now, Daniel is yet to set his first lap. In fact, he's the only one left that can set a lap as he comes down and across. It's a 108.4, and that, unfortunately, is not going to move him out of that last 25th spot on the grid. Let's see if the second lap can hold anything. I love this onboard through this curve. You can see it's just incredibly fast through there, and there's nothing you can see until you get over the hill.
Yeah, there really isn't, Joe, and I will tell you that as you go through that curve at the exit of Clayton like that, your body tells you that this Lotus 79 can't take that turn at full speed, but it can. Now on board again, breaking down into Moss. You see how he's trying to straighten up the steering there. That's exactly what you have to do through there, is you've got to constantly be adjusting the steering and your brake modulation. And you almost want to come through there and coast past the first apex and into the second apex, maybe a dab of trail braking to get the car turned before you get onto the Mario Andretti straightaway. It is no exaggeration to say that Moss is one of the hardest corners in the world to master.
Well, and he's unfortunately going to have a snap of oversteer there coming through turn 8, which will end his qualifying. And even though we've got a minute left, we have our grid set here for today. And that was a fascinating one to watch, with Andy T taking another pole position and Ove Trangarade quite a ways off by about 4/10 in the end. From there, it gets a little bit tight. Juan Costa back in third as Timothy Reed will start from fourth, and Alex Millward, usually a hot shoe here, will start from fifth. But then we have our championship contenders, Kayla and Seppa, in 6th and 7th, diagonal from one another. You've got Pauli Partanen starting P8 and Benoit Daisy in 9th. Peter Konecki rounds out your top 10.
Pablo Suarez will be lining up in 11th, followed by Matthias Havdal with Christopher Dubois and Cristiano Corani in 14th. Row 8 is Armando Edwards and Loic Barba with Jonas Bergqvist and Shane Seawards lining up behind them. John Tackenberry will start off in 19th, followed by Eric Deleu in 20th.
21st goes to Keith Herner with Barry West starting in 22nd, Nicholas Morelli 23rd, and Frankie D and P24. Daniel Gallus struggling a little bit in the qualifying, will start tail in Charlie here today. And it is pretty decent conditions as well. 96 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. A little toasty, but very little wind.
Yeah, indeed. And that no wind will be very helpful for these guys. Decent amount of humidity out there with 67%. So that means that the wings on these cars will be able to bite into the air a little bit more. 71 degrees track temperature, it's a little chillier, but we are talking about Canada here, and so that is to be expected. But I will say for these drivers, that does mean they're going to have to be a little bit careful going down into that first corner. The tires aren't going to be warmed up. It'll take about a lap and a half, 2 laps for them to be in their full operating range.
So what is the start going to hold for our drivers? It can always be treacherous here at Mosport, especially heading into Clayton. Hopefully we don't have too big of problems throughout the field, but you're going to see some eager drivers. DJ talked about it. It's hard to pass here typically, especially in these cars, and we may see some over-eager moves into the first few corners, depending on how everybody wants to try and tackle this one, especially for guys like Kayla and Seppa who want to try and maximize their points, especially over one another. Just about have everybody gridded up here today, and beautiful blue skies above the Canadian soil here at Mosport. Should give us some fun to watch with classic cars at a classic track. We're still waiting on T to put his car out there. And then Millward, Dubois, and Bergqvist, as well as Gallus, are the last ones that need to work their way out. It'll be Trangrade using his now almost traditional Honda livery on his Lotus 79. And there is our pole sitter, Andy T, finally bringing the Raccoon Racing car to the point. And the time is up, so the engines start to rev as the lights come up. And the green flag is out. It's a horrible start for Trangrade. In fact, a lot of wheel spin. He pulls off to the side, making sure he doesn't get into anybody's way. And multiple cars manage to get through on him. Looking back to see if everybody's going to be safe coming out of the first corner. Some car going off into the grass, it seems. Otherwise, they plunge into Clayton. And I'm not seeing big issues except for one car looking like they're in the grass yet again.
I believe that's Bergqvist going off there into the grass around Clayton. It was a great start in the back for Sebri Seppa. He's already up behind his title contender of Marco Kayla. So a good move there as they come down into break into Moss for the first time.
On board with Seppa now sitting in 6th place. We have a car spinning in the back instead of Clayton. The problems happen in a Moss. Someone goes on their lid. That is Peter Koneski, unfortunately.
Yeah, I didn't see exactly what happened there, Joe. I just saw a couple of rear tires of the Lotus fly up into the air as Seppa tries to make a move here on Marco Kayla, going around the outside. No, he's going to think better of it and slide back into line through the S's.
He wants to get past him. He's lost a lot of points, but the drop weeks will help that, as they do get 4 drops in the season. And coming down into turn 1 for the second time. Your leader is Andy T. Costa in 2nd, Millward in 3rd. Looks like Dubois is heading into pit lane. I'm guessing he's got some damage from that first lap.
Yeah, I certainly think he does as we look out the back here of Andy T, who's already starting to pull a pretty sizable gap back to Juan Costa, and that isn't to be entirely unexpected. There is a lot of aero wash here, a lot of medium to high-speed corners, and you can really, really upset the car as you do that. Now we ride on board with Ove Trangrade. Remember that horrible start, seeing him all the way down the field in 8th right now as he tries to close in the back on Paulie Parton ahead of him.
Ove unfortunately wasted that front row start a little bit today, and he could gain some positions as the race goes on. We'll see what kind of pace he has in the dirty air, as opposed to being only behind one other car if he would have not lost any positions there at the start. Through the S's and up to White's corner. Still no change up at the top. T. Costa, no word. In fact, everybody pretty much has been running single file for most of this second lap as we come back to Hovdahl, who's certainly putting some pressure on Edwards.
Yes, he is, but you see any chance there that Hovdahl had to get a good move going into turn one. A little bit scuppered. He ran a little bit wide coming through White's corner. Now watch him here through Clayton. Yeah, he took a little bit of a tighter line there, and again through the second part of the corner. That's all about just trying to get some clean air onto those front wings and try to run as fast as possible through these twisty sections.
Back up to Seppa now. Still stuck behind Marco Kayla. 5th and 6th between the pair of them. Looking for the best exit they can get off of the Moss hairpin, but nobody seems able to try and get an advantage through there. It is a long run up the hill, but you got to be closer than that. And I think we had a problem with Nicholas Morelli, who drops multiple spots. Ooh, he had a close moment here. He's trying to catch back up to Coriani, but let's take a look at the replay. This is a miraculous save down through Moss.
All right, so here he is crusting over the hill down through that bridge section on the binders. Wow! How he kept that off the wall, I will never know. But yeah, Joe, that's one of the problems of Moss. What it looks like there that happened is he just carried a little bit too much speed into the corner. Maybe was applying a little too much braking force. Those rear tires locked. The rear grip just stepped out on him. Very, very easy to do through Moss hairpin.
Looked like he just never lifted and tried to power his way out of it like it was a slide on a rallycross course. Meanwhile, as we're live again, Seppa got within about 2/10 of Kayla, but dropped back here in the first half of the lap. Instead, Hartonen's getting bigger in his mirrors.
Yes, he is. And remember, Joe, that we're not seeing a lot of action right now. We're not seeing a lot of passing, but there are two things to be hopeful for as this race goes along. Number one, remember that these cars do change a sizable amount with fuel load. As the fuel burns off, they'll get lighter, they'll get looser, and you're able to sort of chuck it into a corner a little bit easier. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a real flurry of activity coming here in a couple of laps' time. And then number two, we could also be dealing with some setup things here. Some of these drivers, we've seen it happen multiple times. They'll set the car up to be better late in the race to try to maximize that lighter fuel load, and they may just be trying to bide their time as of right now.
Here we see Andy T, winner from last round. Second place at Phillip Island as well. And like I said, made a real splash coming into the season. If he attends at least 8 races, he could seriously make a run at the championship based on the speed we've been seeing. We come back to Partonen now in 7th place. He got close to Seppa yet again and then starts to fall back. Behind him is the man that lost out on the start. Ove Trangere has been making inroads on that blue number 6.
Yeah, he certainly has. Remember, Ove sort of has a propensity to like to trim out the car, have it run a little bit faster in a straight line. So watch for him there on the Mario Andretti straightaway. I think he's got a real potential to try to move on forward. Ooh, but he can't be making mistakes like that. You saw him run him a little bit wide on the exit of White's.
Yeah, especially around here. I mentioned the speeds are so high. Just a little bit of an off, even though you can see you've got a lot of room outside there. The cars just go for a long ways and wind up in the wall most times. Wow, starting to really get all over the gearbox of Seppa. Pauli Partonen is looking a bit more aggressive than before.
Yes, he is. I think Pauli wants by if he can. Breaking down into Moss. Let the car run a little bit wide. You see that slight bit of oversteer that he had to correct for. I think that's going to cost him a chance to make a good run here at Severi Seppa, but he's still at least going to be threatening in that yellow number 4's mirrors.
Up and over the big crest, and then suddenly turn 8 comes into view. I'm not even sure. Do they lift into that corner? I doubt they break it all.
It's kind of depends on your setup, Joe. You can go flat out through there and then lift off when you come down into the S's. The flip of that is that doing so does cost you a little bit because you're probably going to be more offline than you want to be going into that left-hander. Now, that's when you're running in clean air. In dirty air, my guess is that they are going to have to lift a little bit just because there's not that ideal amount of air pushing the car down into the ground.
Here we see 14th place driver. Whoa, Shane all the way out to the edge of the track. He was getting close to Eric in the 20. Unfortunately, that's not going to work out. Tackerberry behind him got a front row seat of that little save. The trio all vying for 13th here.
Yeah, some good wait-and-see battles as they climb their way up through Moss. Again, a little bit of a wiggle there from Seawards. It's enough to keep it in line, but I don't think that's going to do him any favors here down the straight. Does look like he's closing in a little bit on Eric ahead of him. He may try to look for a little bit of a move going down here into the S's.
He's got the slipstream, but I don't think he's got enough straightaway. And yeah, he's feeling the effects of that dirty air and falls back through the corner. Under braking, though, into turn 9. He got right up close and now out of whites. He still isn't able to attack as we come back to 7th with Partonen just behind Seppa out of Quebec. And you can see how much of the track they need to take as ahead of them, Kayla was flirting with the edges of the grass.
And that's a little bit out of necessity. Again, just trying to pick up a little bit of clean air and maximize momentum in these Lotuses. You do not want to sacrifice any of that. It looked like it was a halfway decent run out of Moss for Partonen, but not enough to really get going.
Yeah, they seem a little bit stuck here, and we mentioned it earlier. The lap is so short. You know, they're just doing over a minute. Oh, have we got a pass? Millward and Reed side by side, and Millward's going to be the one to come out on top on that one. He had to play defense to try and retain the podium. That's the first major move we've seen at the top.
Yes, it is. Throwing down a little bit of a gauntlet here is Timothy Reed, and trying to get by. You can really see the maximization of that pressure. Here it comes.
So Timothy tired of waiting around. Let's see what he can do. Up a spot, up 2 spots. No, up 1 spot, excuse me. I can math. From his starting position from 5th to 4th. He's trying to make it 2 spots as he continues to chase. Getting close here. It's going to take a brave driver to brake as late as you need to into Moss Corner and hope that it sticks. And coming off the turn, this is good. He's got a really good toe. Don't need to go to it, but I can tell you that John Tackerberry had an off in Clayton. He's getting within about a car length. Timothy Reed had a try at it last time, but this time that looked like a lift.
Yeah, not able to get that pass done going into there, but Timothy Reed continuing to apply pressure. If he can keep this up on Millward, he's probably just hoping to see if he can force a mistake through a high accident area such as Clayton or maybe even into Moss.
And then behind them, look at this train forming. It's Kayla at the front of it. Seppa, Partonen, and Schrangray just been stuck in a quartet. We hop on board with the 3rd driver in the line, Pauli Partonen. Pauli just missing out last time out, finishing in 3rd, just behind Marco Kayla. Had a huge battle, though, at Austria.
Yeah, exactly. As we continue to watch that battle, good run there through the first part of Moss for Partonen. It looks like he's able to really carry good speed into the corner. He's just struggling to get the power down through that second apex.
On board with the helmet cam of the number 6 car now. You can see how they have to do those little tiny corrections on the wheel all the way up the hill. And then nice and smooth into the corner, switching back and forth. The curbs flying by to the inside T, continuing to set fastest lap after fastest lap up at the front of them. He's about 2.2 seconds ahead of his nearest rival at the front.
Yeah, it's a really good drive here from Andy T to be able to pull away like that. There you go. Again, you see Partonen just trying to take those alternate lines, get a little bit of clean air onto those wings. He's got a good fight brewing here on it. No, he's got to back out a little bit. Didn't maximize that run out of Quebec. That can definitely hurt you. That's a very tricky corner, even when you're just running hot laps, Joe.
Indeed, and coming off the corner. Ooh, look at this. Is this another run for third place. This is even better for Timothy Reed now, and he is going to duck out halfway up the straight. This is the best we've seen from him. Side by side, into the corner. Can he go the long way around? It is possible. I've seen it plenty of times before. If you can hold onto the grip, and he does, because it gives him the inside, but he breaks early. Oh, no! And a spin right into the tires for Alex Millward. No contact from what I could see. The car just gave up the ghost.
It did indeed. I think he just came in a little too hot on it. Let's check out that replay. You can see there Reed almost all the way out to the grass. There they are holding it around the outside. Yeah, I think that was Millward just trying to hold too much speed going into the S's, and the car just gave up on it.
Promoting everybody behind. Up a position. Reed now onto the podium. Kayla into fourth. Seppa into the top five. That was interesting. I haven't seen a wreck like that into that corner in some time. And obviously he hit so hard, there was probably no way he was going to be able to drive out of that. So this actually seems to have helped out Kayla a little bit, as he has gained on Timothy Reed from that. It's now down to half a second.
Yeah, indeed it is, Joe, and I think really that is twofold of how Kayla was able to catch in. Number one, I think that Timothy Reed probably lifted a little bit when he saw that spinning Alex Millward right in front of him. And then also, I think the fact that they were in that battle, not able to take the optimal line, that naturally slowed down Reed a little bit, so it's allowed for Kayla to catch back in. Reed, though, now clear air in front of him. He is just doing everything he can to try to increase that gap.
Still, they're all a little bit too far apart right now. I think we've got a clear spot for a replay on the start. The wreck into Moss Corner with Peter Konecki is the number 12 machine. I think he got hit from behind is what started this, and then unfortunately everybody's so close together. Yep, there it is. Everybody scatters. And eventually someone was unsighted enough that he just gets scooped up and goes over.
Yeah, and that's one of the trickiest parts about that heavy braking zone, especially here in these Lotuses. Your brakes aren't up to temperature, really. You don't have to apply all that much of them in the opening stages of the lap, and as a result, you've got to really change your braking zone. I think he did a good job to get into that. Did Peter? Obviously, that little tap from behind, just drivers concertinaing up, and almost inevitable at that point.
And Shane Seilert, as you can see, is down to 16th. He lost a few positions. It looks like he had an off in Moss Corner. Yet again, though, driver miraculously avoiding hitting anything in that turn, which is difficult to do. Just a little wide again. Yep, off he goes.
Just a little bit of understeer there going in, and he was able to straighten the car up before he crossed over into that dirt and grass, so able to keep everything together. As we jump back here, this is Severi Seppa's on board. That's Marco Kayla up ahead of him. Kayla's been able to grow that gap a little bit to the tune of about 6 to 7 tenths of a second.
Now, did something happen to Ove Trangrade at the back of this? Because he's fallen back to about 1.5 seconds. I'm looking at his last lap, and it didn't look particularly slow, so I'm not sure what's going on with the 9.
Not sure either. It looked like his last lap was a little bit off compared to some of those in front of him, but now he's right back on the pace. May have just been a little bit of an error that snuck in there to Ove's driving.
He's got it back down to a second, so it looks like he's recovering at least. Still got plenty of time, not even halfway through this event. We've unfortunately lost already about 4 drivers. Dubois, Konecki, and Millward are officially in the garage now, and Nicholas Morelli has been taking repairs for about 4 minutes. Not sure what elicited that, if he had some sort of contact or off track in there. Meanwhile, the Renault of Seppa. Ooh, he's got a good draft here on Kayla. This is a little closer than he's been previous times. I think he's not going to have enough straightaway, though. He's showing himself. Ooh, and just about had a thought about it. But again, they come up to the corner very quick, and Kayla, to the racing line, felt safe enough that he left the door open.
Yeah, and that was really all precipitated by the fact that Marco Kayla had a very bad run on the exit and in the middle of Moss. The car almost completely getting sideways on him. He was able to catch it, but that really blunted his momentum coming down the Mario Andretti straightaway. And now, as we see the switch back and forth here a little bit, it's now Seppa on the defense with Paulie Partonen on the attack. That's that blue and white machine behind the yellow number 4.
Partonen keeps getting tantalizingly close to that number 4 machine. I think, if I'm seeing correctly, Andy T might have caught some of the traffic. Yeah, he's starting to get to the back of the pack. So this will begin our leaders having to deal with slower cars, and that could be the opportunity that some of them might be waiting for.
Yeah, that's the thing we really didn't get a chance to talk too much about here, Joe, is the fact that this is such a short lap and that we are inevitably going to be running into a little bit of traffic problems. Now, right now, it looks like that our leader, ADT, is only really going to be coming up behind Cristiano Carini right now, but up the road, there is a little bit of a battle with Bergquist, Gallus, and D, and so that could present a real problem when our leaders catch them.
Indeed. And, yeah, there's our first lap car. Cristiano just staying off to the side. Good thing about this series is plenty of the drivers have lots of experience and kind of understand the dynamics of when the leaders approach and where to place your car. Meanwhile, back in 6, Partonen within 0.3 of a second, making sure to keep Seppa honest, but it'll take a very hard time trying to get a mistake out of that number 4 if he hopes to try and rattle him.
Yeah, indeed, you saw there both cars almost perfectly taking through Moss. No mistakes there between either of them. Very, very even playing field here. But I think most importantly for Severi, what this is he needs to get by Marco Kayla, if at all possible, because of the championship implications of that. That those are the 2 main title rivals right now, and so Severi really needs to get the move on if he can.
Absolutely. Now, the other note on that, though, is that Kayla has only got 1 win, and Seppa has 2. So when the drop weeks come into effect, that will help Seppa quite a bit. Kayla hasn't won since Road America in round 2, and Barry West is in a nice little fight with Loic Barba. This is into the S's once again. Let's hope they both stay on track as opposed to what we saw last time, and Loic is mighty around the outside of 9.
Very mighty indeed. A great move there from Loic Barba, just letting that car hang out. And that battle now has allowed for Herner and Seawarts to catch up here a little bit. That's that train of 2, 3, 4 that you see in line.
Yeah, that. Whoa, and whoa! Big moment for Loic Barba after that brilliant move around the outside. Has to really save it as this kicks off the battle now. Barry West trying to hold off both Seawarts and Herner. And it looks like Shane is going to be able to take advantage, maybe get a spot, having to do it down into Moss. Finally gets the job done. Barry West holds on to 13th, or at least gains 13th, I should say. And already back on them, Loic Barba, he lost the spots, but he didn't lose all that much time. Look at that.
No, he did not, and he's certainly got a rocket ship under him there. You can see he's closing into the back of Keith Herner right now, trying to press that advantage if he can.
I cannot believe that that 3 car is not in a heap at the side of the road. Let's see if we can get a replay of the onboard, because that was just incredible stuff. Here we go, clear track in front of him. Looks like it just got loose. Wow. Those hands appeared a lot more calm than mine would have been, if I'm honest.
Oh, my hands would have been absolutely sawing on that wheel. That just shows you how in the zone the number 3 of Loic Barba is. Really, really impressive.
Oh, no, and all 3 cars are off now. Shane, Keith, and Barry have gone off the track in Quebec. I heard some apologies on the radio. I suspect this came down to contact.
I think it did as well, but let's go back to check out that replay going down there through Clayton. Everything seeming okay. Seawarts pokes his nose to the outside here, tries to carry a little bit more momentum. Boop, right into the back and right into the back. 1, 2, 3.
Unfortunately, it was a little more Three Stooges instead of Three Musketeers. And Loa Barba, in the process of 2 laps, loses 3 spots and gains them all right back without ever having to make an overtake. Partanen back on board with him. Before we saw that replay, this is what we were watching as he was getting close to Seppa. Seppa just not giving him anything. He's just about 3 to 4 tenths behind at most stages around the lap. Here is Pauli, but his fellow Finn is unshaken.
Yes, Severy not getting driven off that line at all. And I will say he's also losing touch here with Marco Kayla. And where that's going to be especially important is when they make the run down the long backstretch. For that, he has got to be very, very careful because he's not going to have the advantage of the draft in front of him to really take care of anything. And so it may leave him a little bit more vulnerable to an attack from Partanen.
Kayla definitely catching up to Reed. Wonder if the traffic is helping that situation up there for the 3rd spot. And in fact, yeah, there is a big problem with Cristiano around the outside, slowing both of them up. It's down to about 0.6 of a second now as we hop on board our championship leader.
Yes, we do. And as we said, getting into that traffic a little bit, they're up ahead of him. That's Gallus. He's been able to get by Karani as they work their way now through the S's. He's got to hope here that Gallus sees what's going on and is able to get out of the way a little bit.
Sliding out of that final corner.
Whoa, big wiggle there in the back from Partanen. Almost lost it coming out of White's. My goodness gracious.
Whew. That gave a front row seat for Coriani there in the 22. But he's glad that he saved that one. This is on board with Partanen. There you can see a little bit of a poke down to the inside and having to stream past the lap traffic. This is through the next right-hander. Let's see. Ooh, you mentioned those cars getting more loose as the race goes on. That's the 2nd time. Barba first in Clayton corner, and now Partanen. Nothing seems wrong. It's just going into the corner. The rear just starts to want to swap ends.
Yeah, those rear tires just wanting to lose grip. It's what happens when this car gets lighter. It just wants to sort of step out on you a little bit more. Like I said, it makes the cars a lot racier. They're a lot more fun to drive. You can really chuck them into the corner and go for broke on some moves. But you definitely have to be very, very aware of what the car is doing. You've got to feel absolutely everything in your fingertips as it will want to break out on you.
There is Andy T, the Raccoon Racing driver. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Costa's been faster the last 4 laps. It's down to 1.6 seconds.
Well, remember what I said, Joe. You can set this car up to be faster in the late race runs. We may have a little bit of a challenge for the lead on our hands.
But he was not good coming through Moss Corner up to 2.2 seconds. Is that the Achilles heel of the number 8? We've hopped on board with Costa. The Club Iberia driver lost a little bit of time, but those last 4 laps are a very good sign for him.
Yes, they are, and he's already been able to shave that gap down to about 1.8 seconds again, so clearly some speed there for the 8. He's just got to keep here and focus through these last 12, 13 laps.
Well, things are getting a little bit tight here. That's Frankie D. And the 14, unfortunately, just caught a tough spot. It's hard to get out of the way through the S's with the line switching back and forth. And he eventually allows Kayla and Seppa by. Seppa's not too upset about that because that gained him a lot of time that he had lost to Marco.
Yeah, he's able to pull that gap back down to about 0.9 of a second. It had been ballooning upwards of about 1.2, 1.3. Wow, look how close and far to the edge, close to the edge and far out Marco Kayla is driving that car there.
They've only had about 5 cars lapped up to this point. 15 of them still on the lead lap with 20 total still running. Haven't lost anybody new in recent times. Marco Kayla trying to get away from Severi Seppa and catch back up to Timothy Reed. Right now they're split by Gallus. who is a lapped car in the number 13 there. You can see him there, and that dark gold and black John Player special, and he's heads up. He's going to pull off to the side.
Yeah, just letting that traffic through there at the pass of least opportunity. Also letting Severi Seppa by. Paulie Parton in here may get a little bit caught up in it. We'll have to hope here that Gallus is going to be able to get out of the way for him. See a little bit of an oversteer moment there for him. He's going to have to almost make a pass there, as there Gallus does lift a little bit to let him by, but that certainly slowed down Paulie Parton for a minute.
For a track where we kept making a big deal out of it being difficult to pass, we have had some big movers here today. We're on board with Frankie D, who's not one of them, unfortunately, although he has gained about 5 spots since the start. It's Keith Herner who has jumped up the most, 7 positions for the number 21 car, starting from 21st today and still on the lead lap, but that might not last for the entire race because Andy T is all of about 10 seconds behind him.
Yeah, exactly. So he may lose that out here. 10 laps to go. Still a lot of time for Andy T. And some bad news in terms of that battle for the lead, by the way. Looks like that gap has now ballooned back up to about 2.5 seconds. So T, I think, felt that pressure from Costa and turned the heat up a little bit.
Something in me wonders if T is even listening to our broadcast as he races here and there. Look at that. Last time, the complete reversal, where instead it is, or almost complete reversal, where Costa is the slower one for the last 3 laps, nearly 4 of them. And credit to both of them, though. They've stretched away from the rest of the field by a decent margin. It's about 9 seconds down to Timothy Reed. So Costa is definitely running a very hot pace up at the front, even though he can't quite get up to the gearbox of T.
Yeah, it's a good run here for Juan Costa. We've seen a couple of these really good runs from him in the past, but T, as he always seems to do, absolutely sublime here in the Lotus. Just see how smooth he is around there. That car not dancing out like you see a lot of other drivers taking it all the way up to the line. And there's your second place machine, Juan Costa, bringing it out and around there through the corner of Clayton, now down into Quebec. Very tricky to sight a little bit of a braking marker there, trying to get it right, but he has got that thing perfect.
It's been a pretty good season for Costa, frankly. Started off with 2 podiums in a row, 2 third places, and he's looking at a 3rd one out of 5 right here. He unfortunately did not show up for Phillip Island, but the Red Bull Ring, he got himself a 7th place as well. So been very consistent as we look now at Paulie Partonen. Still stuck in that 6th spot, unfortunately. He's up 2 from where he started this race. And he's going to get sick of looking at that yellow rear wing soon enough.
Yeah, I think he is. He is trying absolutely everything he's got here to try to get on forward, but just not working as well. Here is Benoit Daisy. Haven't really covered the 15 that much, but he's closing in on the back of Ove Trengere. That's Ove in front of him in that Honda livery number 9.
Yeah, the Frenchman, we haven't shown a whole lot of him today, but it's been a steady race, up 1 spot, looking at another, potentially trying to make an overtake on the number 9. As we hop on board with him, love the color on this car, just very neat looking. In fact, I think this is the Leighton House liveried Lotus that we noticed at another race coming down into Quebec, still within just a couple car lengths of Trengere's machine. And yes, it is the Leighton House car.
Yes, it is indeed, and that very distinctive teal, easy to pick out on a track, and also with just the pace here that Daisy has had, making it pretty easy to see as well. He's been able to put in some pretty consistent 106.4s in that range, and just continues to set that lap after lap. Jumping up here, though, to Marco Kayla, that's Timothy Reed in front of him. He's closing in on that final podium position with 7 laps to go. I think he knows it's crunch time, and I think Marco can smell a podium.
Certainly looks like it, but it's been back and forth all race long. Little mistakes, traffic, all kinds of things have put them close together and farther apart. We hop on board with Marco. How much does he really want to try and attack Reed? And if he can get by, well, it certainly looks like he's closing in down there through Quebec. if he can't get by, can he try and put some extra pace down to catch Costa as well? Because Juan Costa, like I said, consistent this season. He's one that he wants to try and prevent from getting too many good finishes. And Andy T is still a giant question mark. He wants to try and make sure that T doesn't snatch the championship away from the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly. There you can see pace building up for Kayla. That gap coming down a little bit. He's going to be too far back, I think, for a move down the S's. But you saw on that last lap, Joe, that Kayla has a whole bunch of speed going through Clayton and Quebec. I wouldn't be surprised if we might not see Kayla try to send a little bit of a sneaker into one of those corners here, as he is very, very close behind.
So Juan Costa now going by the car of Keith Herner. Herner in that 14th position. Also one of those helping in the team's championship. He's up with Seppa there in the Renault Elf team. So he wants to try and get as good finishing position as he can. And now you're really starting to see these cars slide a little bit more as we watched from the onboard. And Marco Kayla, thought for a second that that was going to be a pass, but Reed is able to fend him off.
But for how much longer can he continue to fend him off? This is the best run we've seen from Kayla, closing down quickly. Kayla's going to poke his nose to the outside as Reed goes defensive. The car for Kayla, though, stalls out later on the binders, tries to get up alongside, almost contact between the two.
Oof, let's hope it doesn't come to worse here. We've already seen a couple cars get smashed up in that corner. As they come down the front stretch, Caleb backs it up a little bit and tries to reset him up. Same thing is kind of happening back there behind them between Partanen and Seppa. The two pairs have split up and are fighting their own fights now.
Yeah, indeed, they have. Remember, this was such a sort of four-way battle earlier on in the race. Now it's separating into those couplets. There you can see Partanen running a little bit wider on the track, just trying to carry some speed. Not going to probably have a move into Moss, although he is able to close up under braking. This is the closest we've seen Partanen in a good long while. Just has to get that way up there. Let's see if he's got it.
All of them are looking quite close to one another, except for Kayla on Reed, who's dropped back. Seppa can probably see him in the mirrors. Partanen kind of weaving back and forth to show himself, but no, just not enough. John Tackerbury is the one up next. So we hop on board now with Andy T looking towards Juan Costa. It's down to 1.4 seconds. Wonder if the traffic once again costing Andy T a little bit and allowing Juan to get a whiff of a win.
It may be traffic, it may be good pace for Juan. There you can see that gap coming down again and again. So he's got pace in that black number 8 machine. He's going to certainly try to make a challenge here for the lead with only 4 laps to go.
Oh, something happened to Kayla. Kayla's down to 6th. He had it off. Oh, no. The number 2, a late race mistake, is going to hand his championship rival multiple points here. This is into Quebec corner, and it was driver error.
Yeah, it just brings it in a little bit too hot, Joe. There you can see the car want to step out, getting a little bit loose. He's able to catch it and keep it out of the wall, but definitely giving up those 2 positions.
So Seppa now up into 4th, Partanen into 5th, Kayla down to P6, and very few laps to make up for his mistake, unfortunately. We're already on lap 33. So we hop on board with Marco, looking forward now.
Yeah, and he's about a half a second off of Partanen in front of him. And as we've seen, it's so difficult to pass around here. He's really going to have to try to send something brave up the inside if he wants to get a move done.
Kayla once again letting it stretch all the way out to the edge of the track there. But we look at Juan Costa way up the road from these guys by about the tune of 11 seconds. And it's down to 1.1. Is he filling the slipstream from this far back?
Yeah, you may get a whiff of it, Joe, but he's going to need to be within about 7/10 of a second to really take full advantage of it. The reason I say that is because he is going to have to be able to get closer. You don't get enough outright speed on that straightaway.
And it's a long climb uphill, too. Costa now grabbing the fastest lap. And the reason that fastest lap is important is that's bonus points. That's 2 extra bonus points right there that drivers can get, along with the pole, which is 2 more bonus points. Maximum of 60 for a win, with 56 being the most you can get with a win without any bonus points. As we had another car go purple. I think that was Seppa. Yeah, that was Severy.
Yeah, it was indeed, Joe. So Severy definitely feeling some pressure from behind. He wants to try to be able to minimize any attack from Paulie Partonen. Hopping on board here with Ronnie Costa. He's been able to get that gap down to about 0.8 of a second. He's definitely starting to feel the draft there.
This is highly unusual, though, to see T wind up that slow up the hill. Did he maybe get some damage underneath the car? Is it slowing his straight line speed? Because I haven't seen any major mistakes out of him.
He very well could have picked up a little bit of undercarriage damage, Joe. You know, like I talked about in these machines, especially going down. Oh, he's got some left. He has left front wing damage. There it is. There's your answer.
Oh, and side pod damage too. He must have had some contact either with a lapped car or maybe he hit a curb too hard. This is unusual. We are on the last lap. Ronnie Costa, does he have the speed on that Mario Andretti straight to outrun Andy T in the last lap of this race, having led none of them so far? He's starting to gain as they pick up speed, 155 miles an hour for them now. And it looks like Costa is about 5 miles an hour up. He's going to have to be supremely brave to get this done. And T is not going to let this get handed over easily as they come through turn 8. He is just shy. One more lap maybe would have done it for Ronnie Costa. And T survives for his 2nd win of the season.
Just barely survives. A great assault there from Ronnie Costa. As we jump back here, Reed leading Seppa, leading Parton, and it looks like they're going to cross the line in that order. Marco Kalon able to get by. Little bit of a battle there in the back. This is Benoit Daisy, and that's Trangarate around.
Trangarate does the same thing we saw from Millward, but this time he catches it. He falls down to 8th, and Benoit grabs 7th at the last step. Fun story about that Leighton House car as well. That was actually designed by Adrian Newey, of all people. So there's some connection to modern Grand Prix racing. There's, we watch Frankie D bring it home, some of the last drivers across the line here. And that's going to take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, round 5 for the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. Wound up a lot tighter than we thought it was going to be. Juan Costa finished only 2/10 behind Andy T, but for the majority of the race, there was about a 2 to 4 second gap between those pair. It was Timothy Reed who got himself a well-earned podium, as Severi Seppa had to settle for 4th, but he beat his championship rival Parton, who was 5th, and Marco Kayla, who came in leading the championship, finished 6th with a late race mistake. Benoit Daisy finishing in P7, just past Ove Trangrade with 2 corners to go. Ove with a spin, but a great save as well, keeping the car from getting too damaged and at least limping it home to 8th. But remember, he started on the front row, so that was a missed opportunity. Pablo Suarez was 9th, and Matthias Hovdahl comes home 10th.
In 11th, it was Armando Edwards, followed by Loic Barba, who was able to have a good recovery after that little almost spin there. Eric Delille was in 13th, followed by Keith Herner, with John Tackerberry 15th. Herner and Tackerberry, your first cars a lap down. Barry West was 16th, followed by Frankie D and Cristiano Carani. Then Jonas Bergqvist was in 19th. Daniel Gallus unable to finish the race today. The first of your drivers able to do so, along with Sewards, Millward, Morelli, Dubois, and Kozaneski.
Which takes us to our winner here, Andy T, by a scant 2/10 of a second. But the question on everybody's mind is, Andy, what happened at the end? You seem to have lost straight line speed or something from what we could tell, because that gap came down in a hurry.
So I lost a 3-second lead twice because of traffic, who for some reason decided it was a good idea to go too wide toward the entrance of Moss. Please don't do that, guys. Just get to the straight and I'll choose when to pass you. Thanks. But otherwise, it's the landmines, man. So sort of through turn 2, if that's the correct number, just before Moss, there's 2 massive bumps. And you can't really avoid them because you lose so much time. And it's sort of pot luck if you get damage or not. So my left side pod is basically gone. It's just ruined.
And we kind of speculated that maybe there was a curb or something, because we could see a little bit of damage on the car at the end, and that's the best we could figure. We'll order a metal detector for Christmas for you to help out with that. In the meantime, that's 2 wins in a row. Not only did you come into this championship or this round within the top 5 in the championship, this actually might boost you up within the top 3 now.
I mean, that's nice, but I can't guarantee I'm going to get 8 races in this season. That's the problem. So
I know.
I'll turn up and race and we'll see, right? But we'll let the other guys fight it out and see where I am at the end.
Other than that, it seemed like with this 25-car field, we didn't witness too many problems out there. With this being top split, the racing seemed pretty fair from our perspective. How about for you?
I don't know. I didn't race anybody.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations on the victory. Anyone you want to thank for number 2 this season?
Raccoon Racing, as always, and the fan, and you guys, and myself for my amazing head of hair and talent.
That was Andy T, Victor here at Mosport. With our next one coming up is 3rd place, Timothy Reed. DJ has caught up with him.
Well, Timothy, a race out at Mosport is never not exciting, but talk me through your race out there. You got to be pretty happy with the 3rd place.
Definitely my best finish in the broadcast and the first podium, so I'm really stoked about it. But yeah, it's a tough race. I've done a couple of these races this week, and I spun in every one. So this is my first race I think I've ever done at Mosport where I haven't spun, so it was great. Tweaked my setup last minute, got a couple extra tenths out of it for a good qualification run, and just had a great race. Everyone was racing around me was very respectful, and it was tough. Marco was catching up to me, and I thought he was going to be able to put the pass on me going into Moss Corner there, but it was exciting.
Well, talk me through, obviously, you were battling a little bit earlier on with Alex Millward, and then Millward lost it coming through the S's. Talk me through that, a little bit of terror as you saw him sort of spin out in front of you.
Yeah, so Yeah, I was pushing really hard just to stay in the tow with Alex. He had good pace. I'm not sure if he had like landmine damage or something like that, but I started catching up to him a couple tenths a second a lap, and then the people behind me were catching up too. So I figured, okay, it's not now the time to try to start making a move. Felt pretty good on the outside, going through the S's. I practiced that line a couple of times before the race, and I had probably a little bit more downforce than most people, so I felt comfortable on there. But yeah, it was just very close, and fortunately, I was able to squeeze through there.
Well, next time out, we go to a track that is still pretty old school, but pretty ridiculous right now. To see Lotus 79s running around Bathurst, how do you even begin to prepare for that?
That is it's a super fun track, but very different, and like setup wise, it's just different too. It's like no other setup that you run. Like typically, you can kind of throw in a Spa or Road Atlanta setup and be pretty decent, but Bathurst is just a whole new different beast. And well, I hope I'll get a performance like I did today there, but we'll see. It's definitely a tough track. I look forward to it.
We look forward to it as well. Timothy, anybody you'd like to thank for your inaugural podium here?
Yeah, sure. I really like to just thank all the guys in the community that have been making the setups for each week. I've basically been running that with just some minor tweaks, and they've been great. So they did a lot of the front end work with the new tires, trying to get a setup that works, and it works well. And I've been enjoying it.
Well, we've been enjoying watching it, Timothy. Thank you so much. And once again, congratulations. That was your third place finisher here today, Timothy Reed.
That'll round up our interviews as well. So we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Also, a thank you goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And of course, additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp for more awesome work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. As we mentioned, the next race at Bathurst will be Sunday, October 24th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Up next, later tonight, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series goes to Texas. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.